Ready to go.
Thank you, Terry.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. It's now 6:33 p.m. We're going to call to order this meeting of the Traffic Safety Committee for December 9th. Just so I can make sure I can hear everyone, I'm going to just call out your name if you can just respond in the affirmative. Rachel Armstrong,
Here.
Kate Gerard,
Here.
Brian Cole,
Here.
and Scott Charpentier,
Present.
Josh Van Houten,
Here.
Brian Griffin,
Here.
and Tom McDonald.
Here.
Thank you. So we'll get this meeting started. I know the first thing on the agenda is Whitney Street. I actually just got home today and found that I had to go around the barrier to get to my house, which is good. So for the people on the Traffic Safety Committee who maybe didn't watch the select board meeting, we did have a vote 2 months ago that we were going to basically cover up the heavy vehicle exclusion on Whitney Street. Scott and I actually got to the select board meeting, and Scott informed me while we were waiting that we had actually received information from, and Scott, correct me wherever I go wrong, we'd received information from MassDOT that the bridge was in a bit of worse condition than they thought. And they were actually requesting the select board to make an option of either completely closing the bridge while they repair it, or creating a temporary bridge with lights on either side, a one lane, basically temporary structure. So we had a bit of a conversation with the select board, and the select board decided to close the bridge. That was, I believe, the end of October.
So
And
just a quick clarification,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. So Mass DOT provided us the option for them to ask Federal Highway Administration if they can have a single lane bidirectional over the center line of the bridge. The center line beams are the ones that are in good condition. The exterior beams on each side are the ones that are completely deteriorated. There was an option that Mass DOT was willing to offer to the town to see if the Federal Highway Administration was willing to consider it. It still wouldn't been a guarantee. It was just, I think it was just Mass DOT being nice, saying,
okay.
we'll ask on your behalf if you want, but you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah. So the bridge is now closed as of today. So the point is that we did 3 months of deliberation, and the bridge fixed it for us. We didn't we didn't have to do anything. But it was good at least to talk through it. I know it was a lot of back and forth in this committee. And I appreciate all the work that everyone did thinking about that. So Scott, any idea how long
I don't have a timeline. I will mention first that after seeing the detours implemented and driving them both, I reached out to DOT on the northbound Whitney Street detour at Barefoot and asked them if they can take the chevron barrier and the sign and push it to the shoulder, because what they're doing is they're forcing northbound traffic to cross the double yellow center for a bridge that's out with two intersections between there and the bridge outing, residential districts. So I haven't heard back from them. I don't want to move their equipment without getting their approval first, but I'm hoping they're accommodating. We can shift it off to the side. Otherwise, I'm happy to do it with my plows when it finally snows.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up because when I was coming heading from the center of town up Whitney Street, I had to wait for the oncoming traffic to come and then turn down Barefoot before I could go around the barrier. Um, so that makes sense. Any questions from anybody either in the audience or any members?
You had asked Chief about Chairman, about the duration.
Oh, yes, sorry.
It's a couple years to get an emergency bridge designed, bid, constructed, and reopened. By that, I mean two. This is over a railroad, and the railroad is owned and operated by CSX. And Worcester Providence operates on it as well. So, I'm sorry, Grafton Upton. It's not an easy, quick process to do bridge design over railroads. And my video is cutting out because of my horrific Wi-Fi here, I guess. It does it automatically on my Zoom, which is, I guess, kind of cool.
Yeah. A little annoying, I'm sure, but
Yes. Yep.
okay. So yeah, we're looking at least 2 years, if not probably maybe double that.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. Oh, there's Jonathan. Yeah, that's what I was figuring as well, especially with the railroad. As somebody who works for the MBTA, I know how difficult it can be, especially because they can't leave their equipment there, right? Every time a train comes by, they have to remove their equipment, tear it all down, and then put it all back up again. So, that's not going to be an easy process. Brian.
Just curious if we have a list of other bridges that are on their way out.
So Mass DOT in 2021 released a new program where they perform inspections on municipally owned bridges. There are also state-owned bridges in town. River Street is one of them, as is Allen Street. So those are their responsibilities. They're in good condition. The South Street Bridge over the Assabet, as well as the Davis Street Bridge over the Assabet. Though the former is owned by the town and Westboro combined, and the one on South Street is owned specifically by Mass DOT. The one on Davis Street that's shared between us and Westboro is in Davis Ave is in tough shape, but it's not structurally deficient. So the only other bridge we have in town that we know is in really rough shape is the Hudson Street Bridge. As you're leaving town, heading toward River Street, on the right-hand side, there's a large industrial building that's under construction, reconstruction. There's a stone-arched bridge that Cold Harbor Brook goes under right there. And there are some problems in that bridge with the stones and some voids. That's a town-owned bridge. The deficiencies came to the town's attention during the DOT's inspections, and it actually falls on the capital plan for this year design.
But I think, oh, Brian, you're muted. I think Brian's question might have been like statewide. Do we know?
No.
Oh, no? Okay.
No, we don't have to pay for the rest of the state. We just have to.
No.
My question is, what do we do to prevent? I mean, my question, and I think Scott basically answered it, is how do we make sure that the Hudson Street Bridge also doesn't get closed in this case, right? Like, this is catastrophic is strong, but this is pretty bad as these things go, right? What sort of preventative, what sort of preventative stuff can we do to make sure that we don't lose another bridge? And it sounds, at least from that description, like we're on our way there.
Yeah, so we receive bridge inspections for Mass DOT on all the bridges in town, which is a span of over 10 feet and under 20 feet. Over 20 feet is Mass DOT. We get those every 2 to 5 years. We review them to see if there's been any deterioration. Bridges include, for example, Brigham Street at the golf course. There's 2 5-foot diameter culvert pipes that convey the Assabet River. Those are considered a bridge because the 2 pipes, including the space between them, exceeds 10 feet. We know that one is in poor condition. We know the condition of Hudson Street. The other ones that the town owns, their conditions have been relatively static, meaning they have not been deteriorating. They're not perfect, but we keep an eye on them every time an inspection comes in.
Okay, good. And then it's just a question of, as you said, doing you said that the Hudson Street Bridge was on the capital plan, and
Yeah, that would be a very difficult closure. The detour is not bad because you just run around river. But there's a lot of traffic on that segment of Hudson Street, and that bridge is challenging, to say the least, with its proximity to the industrial building there, the old mill building.
Yeah, I think the important piece is to make sure that we're maintaining everything, right? I know it costs money, but if you don't maintain it, it's going to cost you more money in the end.
Right.
That's what we found out at the MBTA, right? The MBTA for decades wasn't maintained very well. And then 2015, the snowstorms in 2015 hit, and it all came to pass, right? Any other questions, comments on Whitney Street? Okay. We'll move on to Crawford Street. I had actually reached out to the chief, and I appreciate the chief being here in this meeting about, traffic enforcement in general. So back almost a year ago now, we had a survey that we put out to the town. Originally, it was to find out if the town would be agreeable to adding our town to a list of towns that have a 25 mile per hour, if you will, default speed zone or speed limit. A lot of towns around us have done that. What we found was, from the survey at least, is that, and we had quite a few people actually respond, they thought that it wasn't an issue with the speed limits, it was an issue of being able to enforce them. So nothing wrong with our police department. We have probably one of the better police departments in the area. Very happy with everything that the chief does. But I guess one of the sayings is you can't get blood from a stone, right? And so the chief was able to provide, and I did send this to the rest of the committee, provide some numbers showing, and chief, correct me where I might get this wrong, but I think our current number is 1.4 officers per 1,000 citizens, and the FBI normal is 2.4.
I believe that's correct, Bill. I don't
Got that
have
right?
those in front of me.
Oh, yeah. And then, so what you were recommending was to start increasing our police force, 1 officer per year. If we can get 4 or 5 officers, that would bring us up to a 1.75. And then you would like to, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but you would like to create a traffic enforcement detail.
Someone is at the front doorbell.
Sorry.
Yeah, can I respond, Bill?
Yes, please.
Yeah, and I am on the financial planning agenda tonight. So if you see me go off screen in a few minutes, that's the reason. So yeah, in short, I mean, clearly it's the number one complaint we receive in town, and I'm sure I'm not the only chief that will say that is speeding cars, right? Absolutely, every day we receive calls from residents saying cars are flying on this street, cars are flying on that street. And we take that personally. We want to go out and do something, and we do a lot of activity, as I think you saw in the memo I sent over to you as far as the motor vehicle enforcement that we do. We are extremely proactive department when it comes to motor vehicle enforcement, because we know what matters to our residents, to our business owners, and that's our goal, is to try to fix some of these problems. But that being said, we can't be everywhere at once, and we have other things going on in town. I think right now, as we close out the year, we're going to have approximately 18,000 incidents we've responded to in the calendar year. So we are a busy department, but traffic is very important to us, and I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes with the financial planning, but maybe Sergeant McDonald knows ballpark county motor vehicles stops we've had this year.
Yeah, I ran it. So as of 11 this morning, not counting the rest of today, we had 6,726 stops.
So 6,700 stops so far this year. That means we're out there enforcing the laws. I wish we could be everywhere at the same time, but we can't be. Last year when I went, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, when I was kind of taken over as chief, kind of had a goal, speaking with the town administration as to, what were our needs a little bit. And we were fortunate to gain one officer in 2024. That was really the first significant addition we've had to the department in a number of years. My goal would have been, or still is, to add an officer and one dispatcher every year for the next 4 years. Given the circumstances as to where we are financially, I don't think that's appropriate to ask for at this time. I'm aware of everything going on statewide, and it's just not right to ask for that now. So that's on the back burner, but it's still a goal. We need to, and my predecessors before me would say the same, we do need to add bodies to the police department to get closer to that national average to better support our residents. So I'm not going to cry about how we're understaffed. That's not what I'm here for. But if we were to increase that staffing, let's say 5 years from now, 4 or 5 years from now, yeah, it would make sense to establish a traffic unit. I know Westboro has a traffic unit, and so does Shrewsbury, where they have 1 or 2 officers whose main assignment is traffic enforcement throughout their shift. They do not have to take any other calls unless if it's, of course, an extreme emergency situation, and they are out enforcing laws all day long. I think it would be great. I think there would be officers that would love that opportunity to do that. I mentioned in my memo, I would, perhaps add a motorcycle to that unit, as that's a great visual, and can also kind of hide in some good spots that a cruiser can't. So yeah, that would be the long-term goal. Again, that's still a ways off given the financial situation everyone is in right now. So, but that would be the plan.
So, quickly, Mr. Chair, you asked a little bit about the staffing levels. I just pulled up the data that the chief had sent out to the committee previously. Of 20 of our peer communities based on resident size and population, the only 2 towns that are lower ratio than us are Northbridge and Belchertown. So that just to put it in a bit of a perspective. Holliston is well above us, as are a lot of our other peer communities.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers say a lot, I think, which, thanks, Scott, for pulling that up. Those numbers do say a lot as to where we are compared to towns comparable to our size in the activity that we do. I've always said we do a lot with a little, and we will always do that. But it would be nice to have some additional manpower and woman power somewhere down the road.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members?
I
Rachel?
have a question. First of all, I saw those numbers and we always hear about how Northborough is one of the safest towns in the state. So I'm just so appreciative of you guys, given the lack of staffing compared to other towns. It's just even more of an accomplishment. So thank you so much for that. My question is about speed bumps. We get a lot of requests for them, and I know it's not, great for DPW. And we had talked potentially about temporary speed bumps or portable speed bumps. I don't know the correct terminology, but from a policing standpoint, and I know other towns have implemented them, do they help with traffic enforcement if given all the expenditures coming up with schools and roofs and things like that, we may not be able to add to your staff. Do you see speed bumps as a good investment to at least temporarily get us by with traffic enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, I've been to Southborough, I've been on Parkerville Road, and I think, on Parkerville Road, there's the nearest school, and I don't know if they have them anywhere else in town in Southborough, but I, personally know that that makes me slow down a little bit. You know, I don't know. Rachel, I'm not exactly sure. I think it probably would help. But I think you then go into everyone's going to want it on their streets. I don't know how you decide who gets it and who doesn't get it. I mean, I would love them on my street, so I think that's really where it becomes difficult. I haven't done enough research on them to see, do they in fact work? I would imagine they do. I mean, I know on Parkerville Road, it makes me slow down. I was in Newport, Rhode Island on Sunday, and they have the traffic cameras, right? And it says your speed is monitored by traffic cameras. And it was up by I think it's the St. George Prep School near Second Beach. And they had signs leading up to it. Your speed is monitored by cameras. And I kept looking for the camera, but as I'm looking, I realized I'm going about 19 miles per hour, right? So, I mean, clearly like something like that, definitely worked. I think we're still a little bit away from traffic cameras in town. But yeah, I mean, I think any little bit helps. I just think the difficulty would be as to who gets it and who doesn't get it. And, that could cause some, I don't know. I think that might cause some issues. But yeah, do they work? I would imagine they do. I mean, I know it works for me in Southborough. It makes me check my speedometer.
Yeah, speed humps are not recommended on certain classifications of roadways. Major collectors, minor collectors, any collector is not recommended to have a speed hump on it. And if Crawford Street is considered not recommended for a speed hump, then you can understand the traffic volume and the size of that road compared to some other roads that people are interested in. And the chief is right. Generally, they're in that high pedestrian volume areas, schools, parks, playgrounds, crossings in downtown areas that are not under state control. That's generally where they are. So there's not a lot of regulations on them, but there are a lot of design recommendations that we try to follow as best we can. And just a reminder for everybody, I'm not cutting out my camera. It's cutting itself out on me because my Wi-Fi is unhappy with the temperatures, maybe. I'm not sure.
No problem.
We sympathize. I'm not happy with the temperatures either.
So I did want to bring that up because I wanted, we do take this seriously. And, somebody made a valid request. I think they also requested to review the speed limits on Crawford Street to be able to reduce them. And that's my concern, right? Is that, just reducing the speed limit, if we can't, if we're having trouble doing enforcement, reducing the speed limit is, and we know that people speed down Crawford Street, right? Just from, Sergeant McDonald, you were saying in the last meeting that, the systems that you've put out there show that people are speeding down that street. It's just a problem of, what do we do about it?
And when I had actually the sergeant on text me early. He sat there for half an hour and top speed was 31.
Right.
He leaves. Someone could have went by at 50, but it's all, if you're there when they're there, then it works out. If you're not, it's tough.
Right.
Yeah, I'm curious how much the new signage on Crawford Street has reduced the speed.
What new signage?
One of the residents put a large,
Oh, the
piece of
homemade
plywood.
one, or was
Yes,
it
the
something that
homemade
the
one.
town put
I
up?
was going to say vigilante, but yes, the homemade one.
Okay.
So one of the anomalies with modifying the speed limit on Crawford Street if we were to go through the Mass DOT process, we do speed count, traffic counts with speed, and the 85th percentile is what gets submitted to Mass DOT to revise the speed limit. And as previously mentioned by our sergeant, it's 35 or over. In order to circumvent that process, the select board has the authority to designate specific roads in town to be 25 miles an hour, period. So if there was going to be a speed limit adjustment on Crawford Street, I would recommend we go with the latter rather than the former. Because you're not going to get the results that you want from an official Mass DOT traffic study.
Fortunately, we have a member of the select board here with us.
I used to drive Crawford Street. I have been on it. I got to visualize it though. Is it a road that lends itself to 25?
I
It's a-
mean, from someone who lives on the short end of Davis Street and it is 25, exactly what they were saying, whether there's enforcement or not, that's how people drive.
I do
And
see
it's
like if
pretty
you
similar,
ever,
it's windy and narrow, so
yeah, it's not a silver bullet, but like when you see a sign 25 that is pretty abrupt and you're going like 40, you notice, right? And you go, oh, whoa, I didn't know the speed limit was that, and you come down quickly as opposed to seeing something that's, I don't know the speed limit there, but if it's 35, you might just continue to go 40 or be more comfortable going faster. But
I think
I'm
it's
not an
30.
expert at speed limits signs and the impact they have on driving habits, but intellectually, I would think lowering it to 25 would not hurt.
The only street in town that I don't even know, they've been there since I was a kid, have extra signs that say strictly enforced too. I don't know who put those up, but
It's an interesting road because it has relatively long straight segments with little grade. And then you go into a very narrow cross section with a lot of sharp curves. So I'm surprised it's not 25 in town. Just because of the cross section when you come out of West Main Street and you're going on that first segment, it's incredibly narrow where the guardrail is. And then you get to a lot of steep slopes and curves as you continue past Echo's property. So I'm shocked that at least half of it is not 25 miles an hour.
yeah,
Now,
I
this
think
is-
most of the stops and tickets written on it are a little further away from 289 where they put up the signs. It's more towards like Franklin Circle, 90 to 100 area. It's more of a straight there. And there's places you can actually park. The other problem, it's hard to, and you can park in some driveways here and there, but there's not many places. There's a dirt turn off there, big long straightaway. You can get it, and that's usually where like I used to sit all the time, get stops.
What about changing it like Davis Street heading between Route 20 and Westboro, how it goes from 25 to 35 to 25 based on the pattern of the road? Is that something that might make sense for that?
I would rather see consistency on that road. Just ease of enforcement and
Yeah.
it's a cut through road. People get off at 290 and they want to jump over to that side of town. So you pop down Crawford Street, you're out West Main, boom. You're right at Times Square. So I think a little consistency would go a long way. And I agree with our sergeant. That section over by Franklin Circle is straight and well paved, and we just paved it, so that certainly doesn't deter speed. Not that I'm promoting potholes, but it doesn't exactly deter speed.
Make
Right.
it into a dirt road. It'll work.
Yeah.
I would agree with Scott on the consistency too. Even for our officers who are trying to do radar enforcement, it does get tricky sometimes when they have the radar gun out. And it's like, wait, are they in a 35 zone or a 25 zone? It does get confusing for us too. Folks, I do have to leave for another meeting, but thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Have a
Thank you,
nice
Chief.
holiday. Have a nice holiday.
You too.
I mean, I think the 25 is an interesting idea. I think I can't speak on behalf of the entire select board, but I think there'd be receptivity towards it.
So what does the rest of the committee think? Do you think, would you be interested in sending a letter to the select board recommending Crawford Street be reduced to 25 miles an hour for the entire length?
I would say yes.
It does show we're listening to residents in a way that's responsible and appears to like hang together.
Yep.
My concern is similar to the truck exclusion conversations. We say yes, and then every week we have a new request. And
We have those requests anyways. We
right,
just say no.
because we gave the truck exclusion to Summer Street.
Right.
So I just don't want I mean, granted, the survey said that the town was not interested in a townwide speed limit at 25 miles an hour. Does that survey have to be the deciding factor?
Well, Jonathan, I know you can't speak for the select board, but would you be in favor of looking at a 25 mile an hour speed limit? Basically, it's like a default speed limit for the town as a whole. So basically, if there's no sign, it's 25.
What is it now? What is the understanding
30.
of no? Is it 30?
Yeah.
Depending on where it is. If
Yeah,
it,
some
there's,
some communities can adopt a 25 mile an hour speed limit for all thickly settled areas. Currently, the state law has the thickly settled at 30 miles an hour. So if it's unposted, it's 25. So the impact of doing it townwide would be simply we go out, Public Works goes out and pulls every, 30 mile an hour speed limit sign if there's a concern or complaint. We can remove those signs, the speed limit gets reduced. But if it's unposted currently, it's 30.
And then the other piece to that too is that DPW would need to put up a sign at every entrance into, and this is what I've seen at all the other places where I've seen this, is they put up a sign at the entrance of town on every street where you enter the town saying this town is, by default is 25 mile an hour by default, unless otherwise posted.
What towns have you seen that in? I don't know, maybe it's
Concord, Bedford, there's a whole
Bolton, I
list of
think.
them. Actually, I can send you the link. The Mass DOT actually has a link of all the towns that have adopted this. I think Berlin has it, right? Oh no, that was
I think
it
it's
wasn't
Bolton.
Berlin.
Bolton?
Bolton.
Oh, yeah. I think it's it's not a requirement, but it's a courtesy. As Sergeant knows, ignorance of the law does not circumvent your compliance. So just to warn the entrances that it's 25 is probably the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, Crawford is an obvious one. I'm just looking on Google Maps while we're talking. Like you look at that, and that was an obvious cut through where 25 could help. I think probably bigger conversation on the townwide piece. I'd have to think through that a little bit more and just understand what's customary. And I'm learning in this conversation. I don't think I appreciated some of the points that were made.
Well, we can get you the results of the survey that was done by the committee about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So it was eye-opening. I didn't expect the results we got, and that's often the case when you blanket the community with
How many responses did we get?
Over 700.
It was a lot.
Mhm.
So, Jonathan, I'll send this link to you, but I'm going to share my screen really quick so you can see. These are the towns that have adopted.
These are all towns have adopted unless otherwise posted 25 miles per hour.
These are, yeah, so it was a special regulation done by the state. So these are the ones that
I think this is worth seeing, and the opt-in dates will be interesting too to kind of see what the recency is and the trends are, because other towns are obviously see similar challenges that our town does.
Right?
Also, personally, this is the first time I realized that you could adopt it over an individual street
The
as
select
opposed to
board can,
Yeah, I
a
mean, that's what
town
we,
can
do that,
adopt it
yeah.
over an individual street as opposed to just citywide or townwide like we were discussing.
yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it
that's
sounds
what
like
we've done in the past, right? Is, we've done individual streets like Kate mentioned. The problem is that then everyone wants it. So if everyone wants it, does it make more sense just to do this?
right.
So Jonathan, I'll send you the link to this as
Cool.
well, so you
Yeah,
have
that's
that.
great. I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a great conversation. I think I've gotten a lot of feedback on speed limits, and I know the what I'm about to say is the challenging one is, and I love this committee to think about it as we think about like how do we make Northborough more walkable and more, less fast. But it's the obvious one. It's coming in on 20 from Marlboro, and in 20 west when you go over um, towards like the high school and Gospel Guy, and that's one I think when you first have a kid. My son just got his driver's license, but I remember first time we were on that road and he's going 45. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, Dad, it says 45. And I'm like, what? And it just
Yeah.
feels like it shouldn't be 45. And you're coming into town hot. And it kind of like changes the mentality in which you drive in town, because your mindset has to change from driving that fast to driving a different speed. So I know you got to work with the state. Somehow Sudbury's worked magic in doing it. I don't know how, but that would be, and I know it could be not easy and hard, take a long time, but I'd love if you could change something like that. That will change a lot of the mentality of how people drive in town, because it's the first thing they do as they enter the town.
So Mass DOT follows the process I described earlier, where it's the 85th percentile of driver speed, where they set their speed limits. That's why when you're on a state-owned roadway, you have a speed limit generally higher than you think it should be, because people speed a lot, and they get more. They're speeding more and more the more their cars kind of almost drive themselves. A large portion of Route 20 through Sudbury, like once you get past the Wayside Inn and you're over by Bullfinches and you start to get to the narrow area, that's state numbered, town owned. So when you go through, the core center of Sudbury, anytime you see a state numbered road get narrow and then open it up, that narrow section is generally town owned, state numbered, like South Street, Route 135. That's town owned. We have jurisdiction over setting that, reconstructing it, setting the speed limit, and those types of things.
How did Sudbury manage that? Like, how do we not have control over our center of town and Sudbury does?
Well, it's all state highway that runs through downtown.
I know, but isn't it Route 20 that runs through the center of Sudbury too?
Yes, yes. There are sections of 135 when you go through Westboro that are kind of wide open, and those are state owned and state controlled. Route 30, same thing. There's some very wide sections of Route 30. Before you get to St. Mark's, it's pretty wide open, but when you go through St. Mark's, the cross section narrows and it becomes town owned, state numbered.
So you're saying the difference between Shrewsbury, Northborough Center of Town and Sudbury's is that Sudbury has control over those parts of their section of Route 20 and we don't.
Yes.
And that
And
is the way
yes.
that the street is made
I
up, or is that something we can try to change?
I don't know how far back the ownership of these state right-of-ways goes. I don't know. I mean, we have a monument on a state highway that says George Washington walked by here. I don't know if I have no idea how that determination was made 100 years ago, but I do know 135 is a state numbered highway, and it's a town owned, controlled, and Route 20, as well as West Main Street, are state owned and controlled.
Yeah, and I think it has more to do with the right of way that's owned, right? So in Sudbury's, it's a narrower right of way, maybe, when it was changed from a cart path to a road, to a road a couple hundred years ago. There was already a property line there, and so it narrowed the road. So the state said, well, we don't want to be responsible for it. I don't know.
I'll ask Norm Corbin.
Yeah.
He's pretty good with history.
He knows his stuff.
Yes.
I'd love to get control of those lights in the center of town.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott, is there an avenue where we can engage? And I know these things it's not easy when you start talking about state-owned roads and Route 20, I mean, its birth was a highway to get a trucking route to get from like here to Portland. Like is there, it would be interesting to understand that from the state's perspective, if there was a way to kind of engage the state in the conversation.
We can certainly do that, and my gut tells me the state would love to take 12 miles of infrastructure off of their responsibility plate and give it to the community and say, you guys can now own this and operate it. I don't know if that would be the case, considering it's state controlled on each portal.
Yeah.
Meaning, over at the Route 9 bridge by Northborough Crossing and then over by Apex, those are still parts of state Route 20. But yeah, that's a conversation absolutely to have. I don't want to own it. I don't want to operate traffic lights, but we don't literally own a single traffic light in Northborough. It's wonderful. From a public works perspective, I have no control. I have traffic light controls.
We just own the blinking crosswalks, right?
Yeah, we got a lot of those. Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks, but I'd be interested in that sort of conversation.
I could have a sidebar, just with the DOT.
Yeah, and Scott, I don't know if they'd be willing to come with this committee, or if they would want to chat with the select board. I think because this committee is what's the word I'm looking for? We make recommendations, not decisions. Right. They may be more willing to talk to the select board than they would be to this committee. What are your thoughts on that?
Let me talk to a few folks that I know that live in Grafton that are pretty far up the food chain in Mass DOT, and see what their response is, and if it's something that sounds well, either way, I can respond to the committee, and if it sounds viable, we take the next step. If it's not, I'll inform you of the results, and it is what it is. But yeah, I'm happy to talk to him. I haven't seen him in, I think 2 years. So.
Well, it is the holidays.
Yep, perfect. I'll take him out for a coffee and breakfast.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Before we get off that topic, I talked to Representative Donahue about Crawford Street because I saw it was going to come up again. Her friend at the Mass DOT recommended Lori Shadow to trying to take a look down the Mass DOT's safe spaces or safe speeds program and see which, if any, of the the other non-speed limit tools in our tool belt could apply to that road.
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to Lori. I emailed her earlier today about another topic. So I'm happy to ask her, and
I'd love to get their input, see if there's something we're missing.
Yep.
Or something we've overlooked.
Lori's the one I emailed about when it comes to the chevrons and sign over on Whitney Street that's in the middle of the road.
So Scott, you had said that road is called a mass collector. Was that the designation?
Major.
I believe it's a major collector.
And so does that designation come based on the design of the road or the location of the road, or is it just that based on the traffic because now it's a cut through, so it's been designated that because of the amount of traffic on there?
Yes. Yeah, they consider cross section, they consider traffic volume, they consider geometry as well. So and it's a Federal Highway Administration classification. So Federal Highway Administration has specific guidelines that Mass DOT follows to establish roadway classifications. So we have no control over those classifications. They are what they are, and I've never heard or seen an appeal or dispute, so to speak, ever. So I don't know if they exist and people have done that and they've gotten them revised. My guess is that if you ask for it to be evaluated for revision, the classification is only going to go up, because if it was done in 1987, I'm pretty sure the speed and the volume has gone up since then. So I don't believe a lot of people will get the results they're looking for, unless there was some kind of major infrastructure, bypass road or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So, let me ask this. So the original discussion that this all started from was Crawford Street. So let's go back to that. Do we want to hold off on making a recommendation for Crawford Street? Or do we want to make a recommendation to the select board to reduce the speed limit to 25 on just Crawford and continue to have the conversation about the town-wide 25?
I think we should vote on Crawford tonight.
Okay,
I think we have all the information we're gonna get, and we've talked about it a couple of meetings. It just makes sense to kind of go
Close the loop.
forward.
Yep. So, do I have a motion to make a request to the select board to reduce the speed limit on the entirety of Crawford Street to 25 miles an hour?
So moved.
Okay.
Second,
Okay, moved by Brian, seconded by Kate. Roll call vote. Brian,
Aye.
Kate,
aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So Scott or Josh, if you guys can write that up, and I can come in and sign it, and then we'll present it to the select board.
Yep, we'll put a memo together, likely the January 12th meeting. I'm guessing because the 15th is pretty close, and I think it's a long agenda, so we don't want a long agenda a few days before the holiday break. So
Yeah.
we'll do it afterwards when everybody's reared up for long meetings.
Okay. Awesome.
Is that what happens after holiday breaks? I've never found that. Fascinating.
I don't know. I don't know if they can get longer than midnight every other Monday.
Next on the agenda is Whitney Street, and I do see that we actually received a letter from
I think you meant Church Street.
oh, sorry, Church Street, yes. And I see that Mr. Wall is here. Scott, do you want to just go over that email real quick?
Yeah, certainly. I'm happy to. So Church Street, as everybody knows, is the route from 290 to downtown Northborough. There is quite a bit of traffic on it. There has been, concerns with speeding voiced in the past. That's why we put the driver speed alert sign up. The chief got that through ARPA allocation. It is after Crawford Street, so you come up 290, you're heading toward downtown, and there's a speed alert sign, tells you how fast you're going. The resident reached out with some concerns about continued speeding issues and tractor trailers. And part of the email indicated that there would be some recommendations that he put together. Thank you, Brian, for reaching out to the resident individually and getting his thoughts on paper. His thoughts include, well, I'll let him go over them, but Josh and I did look them over, so we're happy to discuss them after Bob has presented his thoughts.
Okay. Mr. Wall, if you'd like to make a presentation or anything, all I ask is that you just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Everybody hear me okay first?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, Bob Wall, 81 Church Street, Northborough, Mass, of course. Lived here for 38, soon to be 38 years, so I have some good history on Church Street. And And thank you for adding this to the agenda because, you know, we've seen Church Street, you know, of course, grow with the town and the safety concerns. We met with Chief Griffin on October 26th toward that safety concerns and primarily with the tractor trailers, you know, going at the speeds they were. And I'm going to break Church Street into two segments. There's Upper Church and there's Lower Church. Lower Church, I believe, is much more congested, much more residential. And of course, we have the Z School access as well. When he shared with me that there were over 700 vehicle stops on Church Street, that kind of really hit home. And of course, when I hear the 6,000 for the town, that's just an incredible number. And again, my concern was more about not stopping the trucks on Church Street, but maybe some limits of trucks, but more importantly, the speed. So I will go through those, what I call proposed actions or suggestions, if you want. Of course, I did in the email to Brian, I did come up with a proposal on how FedEx and Dewey Pile and Amazon can avoid Northborough completely. And I know that's not going to happen, but when you read through what I've suggested, it makes all the sense for no trucks to go through Northborough. But in that said, the suggestion for Church Street are to lower the speed limit from 35 to 25. There are only two, other than the digital readout that you guys talked about, there are only two signs on Church Street, one Upper Church at 35 and one Lower Church at 35. So I'm suggesting that we add two more speed limit signs and of course lowering that to 25. I'm almost in the historic district on Church Street. My suggestion here is to extend the historic district up to Colby Street, which is really that beginning part of what I call that congested part of Church and the lower part of Church. I don't know how the historic district sign came about, but I did like the fact that maybe we can use that as an idea to lower the speed limit. And if you wanted to keep Upper Church at 35 and then start 25 there, then I think that would reduce the trucks and the traffic to speeds that are safer in that Lower Church area. Because it is, you can say through the wetland area on Church, it can be kind of a speed wreck with the straightaway there. Kind of like similar to the other streets in town. I also put post a no tandem tractor trailer signage. We do get tractor trailer tandems up and down Church Street. I know I sent out a thing to Scott about the sewer manholes and the water manholes are just pounded into the ground, and the Church Street asphalt is all torn apart or soon to be torn apart. And tandems, of course, the weight alone on those trucks can do some serious damage to the street. So whether we're allowed to do that or not, I don't know, but the tandems should not be allowed on residential streets. I did also suggest maybe trucks between 9 and 3 during the day only. Again, that's a wishful thought. I did mention speed humps, and what I meant there was maybe through the Z School crossing area of Church, because we have new crossing areas on Church now, which I assume are for safety toward Z School kids getting to school. So maybe there's some kind of way to reduce that speed, or speed humps can do that. And then add another, you already had that electronic speed warning up top, and maybe add another one in Lower Church. And the other thing we already talked about was increasing the police times with radar. And again, I know we're limited with staff to do that. So those are a couple ideas to kind of make Church Street a safer conduit between 290 and the center of town. I know we're not going to stop everything, but I just seen it over the years increase and become a raceway and a truck terminal main artery. So I'll leave it there, and hopefully you guys have some feedback or questions.
Thank you. I appreciate the email. We did get your attachment. So, again, like Scott said, thank you to Brian for doing that. Scott or Josh, I'll let you respond first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Bob, I appreciate the amount of work you put into your mapping and your suggestions. So 25 miles an hour, I'll start out with the positive. 25 miles an hour, because I'm always the negative guy. 25 miles an hour from downtown to Colby makes a lot of sense from a geometric perspective. There's that horizontal curve to the left when you leave town and you pass Howard Street and you're going straight, and then all of a sudden the roadway crown, this cross slope dips deep right into that utility pole
Right.
that has been replaced every 3 years since I've been here. It's the most beautiful telephone pole in town because it's always new. Unfortunately, that makes sense from a geometric perspective. The rest of the road, I believe it's probably posted correctly. A few of the challenges with the detour, a detour route for church is that it would have to go through an adjoining community, an adjacent community. And when it does that and you propose it, that you need their approval. And I have never seen a community tell Mass DOT, yes, please allow my neighbors' trucks to come on my roads.
Right.
That's generally not the response received, and we've provided that negative response as well. So that's pretty much across the board. The other suggestions, while they're well thought out, are challenging, and I don't think, well, not allowed. We can't. We can reach out to local trucking companies, Amazon, A. Dewey Pile, ask them to go to Solomon Pond and then turn back. That's fine. I believe the residents on Hudson Street would lose their minds because they would be making that turn, that terrible left turn from Solomon Pond Road onto Hudson Street to get onto Boundary, which is a really narrow road in order to get to Amazon, A. Dewey Pile, and FedEx. The hour restriction, that's not a viable option. That's not allowed. I'm surprised to hear tandems. Sergeant McDonald, tandem tractor trailers on local roads. I know they're on state highways, and they have the staging areas where they can drop the rear trailer. I didn't think they were allowed on local roads. Maybe they are.
I don't see why I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I don't see why they wouldn't be. I mean, there's no, what would it be? Be a weight restriction issue if there's any type of restriction, right?
AI says that tractor trailers, tandems are not allowed on many local roads in Northborough, but I really never
AI
trust
makes up a lot of stuff.
Yes. In my opinion, AI, the acronym stands for actual intelligence as opposed to artificial. But regardless, a lot of the suggestions make logical sense. It's just that they're not viable for implementation.
I think the one thing, if you can consider church in two segments, the upper and lower, and do something with the lower half. And I think, like you said, at that terrible section on Church where that telephone pole gets replaced every 3 years, that's the beginning, pretty much where Colby Street is. And if you post 35 to 25 there, they will, I think, at least slow down, and maybe not as violently going through, to get to the center of town in a hurry. So.
Yeah,
I think that's a great suggestion.
I was going to say that as well. Maybe that's the takeaway here is we do a 25 mile an hour from Main Street to Colby, right, on Church.
I don't know if the historic district can help you do that. I don't know how that came about. I do like that idea, but maybe you can use that as not to use the word as an excuse, but a reason why it goes to 25.
No, I don't think we would need that excuse, like Scott mentioned, right? It's the narrowing of the road. You're coming into a residential area. You're actually coming into a downtown area. I think that in and of itself would probably be justification enough to be able to reduce the speed limit.
No, just looking at the houses on Google Maps, it does look like it gets significantly more dense down that way. And just to clarify, Colby Street is the cutoff between Upper and Lower Church in your mind, right?
That's the one street where the cutoff could, I'm using that as a landmark. But you know, it's probably
That
another
ballpark,
30.
certainly.
Yeah. So another 30 feet to that crest that where it
Mhm.
dips downhill or it's coming uphill, you know, where that's where I think you can post something and then hopefully they pay attention to it.
If the committee chooses, I'm happy to go out and look at the geometry and see where that horizontal curve, the point of tangency on the northern end occurs, and that would likely be the limit where it increases. It's clearly an issue. It was brought up by the select board in previous years about trying to put a guardrail to protect that pole. Which is not a viable solution because guardrails, they're not static deterrents. They're designed to give and allow the guardrail to move and the vehicle to not be impacted so much. And with how tight that pole is to the roadway, it doesn't fit. So the select board is well aware or was well aware of the issue there.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think, just using the accident data of that telephone pole would
Yeah.
give us justification enough to reduce the speed limit around it.
what do you think, Sergeant?
Yeah, that pole gets hit going out of town. So the sign's what? The actual speed limit change is just after it, correct? I'm trying to
Correct.
picture it in
Yeah,
my head.
just north of it, the 290 side of it. Yep.
So, and I honestly think, I mean, granted, you have to see it, but everyone you talk to, you ask them if they're on their phone, they were doing something, they weren't. But the road curves a little left there, they go straight into a pole, most likely on their phone. It's not necessarily a speeding issue, but I mean, I guess if they're going slower on their phone, it might.
Yeah, and maybe a speed limit sign saying, reduce speed, might wake
Yeah,
them
because
up a little
that
bit.
pole that gets hit, a couple times a year seems like it's always on
Dangerous curve.
that
Dangerous
slight
curve,
bend and they
25
just
mile an
go
hour.
straight into it. Same with the flats. I never understood how just past that where you talk where all the marsh is, it's a straightaway. And we have people drive off of that. It's slightly pitched. It seems like the road's pitched a little bit going downhill if you're heading out of town, but it's a straight road and people drive off it all the time. I
Yep.
don't understand that either.
I fix that sidewalk a lot.
Yeah. So
So, members, what do you think of that? 25
I-
mile an hour from Main Street to Colby.
Were there some speed reports that the chief had done for this location so that we can see what the actual speeds are now and the axles with the tractor trailers?
We have not done traffic counts there. There are no heavy commercial vehicle exclusions, nor would I ever expect one to be on Church
Right.
Street. But it's, I'm sorry, Tom, to speak on your behalf, but it's certainly viable to gain some data on speed with the mobile signs.
yeah, I mean, I can certainly put one up. Typically, we put those away once it starts snowing because the data is relatively not useless, I wouldn't say, but you got plows, it skews it quite a bit, and it's once you start getting snowbanks and trying to put them up in the snow, it's not as good. But I mean, I could hang one and just see what we get for speeds in that section. No problem.
Hang it high so the cars don't hit it.
Right?
You have
Yeah.
put up,
Well,
you have put up the sign before. I'll use the word sign. There was one literally almost across the street from us, where you could see the speed of every vehicle going at least one way.
how long ago was that?
I'm going to say the summer.
All right, I was gonna say because if it was this past summer, I'm trying to think if I had it once I took it over, I found out we could get that data. I reached out to radar
Yeah.
signs that because for years we hung them without realizing we could collect all this data from them.
Yeah, and I'm
And-
assuming you put those out based on people's request.
Yeah, people email me or this committee or I've gotten them. I put them on Fay Lane. I know Howard Street. I had a few Crawford Street. So I collect the requests. So if I put one out on Church Street, I'll go back. I log them as an incident, so I'll try to look it up, and I can try to look at that data. And like I said, it's one way, whatever side of the road. What I try to do in an ideal situation is hang it one way for a week or two, then put up another one the other way for a week or two to try to get both. But
Yeah.
doesn't always work out that way. But I can look back through my through it to see if I can collect data from that.
It's great. Yeah, because
And if not, I'll hang a new one.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's been a history of those. I can't tell you when, but I know over the years I've seen them in different spots along Church. So
Oh yeah. And typically, I feel like they've put them up. I never put one there, but I feel like the guy that did it before put it on the speed limit sign right near you're talking about, kind of on Colby, heading northbound.
But these are independent. They weren't on speed limit signs.
No, I'm saying we usually mount them. You either have to ratchet strap it to a telephone pole, or we can bolt it to an actual sign pole. And ideally we'd mount it to a speed limit sign so they can see the speed limit sign, and then it shows your speed and it collects the data.
Yeah,
that's what I try. That's what I try to do, at least.
Yeah, ideal.
So
the other question I had is, where does the historic district currently end?
It's if I'm at 81, I'm just going to guess a number. It's got to be 78.
Is there a sign that indicates it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean, literally from our house, it's probably 75 feet away from my house. Going toward the center. Again, I don't know the address of the yellow house on the corner of Pleasant and Church. That's been, again, been there forever.
Yep.
It's just past that house. Going toward the center of town. It's on the right.
yeah, I think that's because that house is actually a historical house. I have relatives who actually grew up there in that house. That is a historic house. I think that's why the district ends at the house there.
Okay.
And also, where you talk about upper versus lower Church Street, is there a distinction somewhere on Church Street that separates the two, or is it just like, for the purpose of the conversation, they're two separate sections?
Of course, it's all one street, but where Colby Street is kind of that what I call beginning of the lower part of Church, that I'm calling that. Okay. Anything north of that, which would be that wetland area, that straight flat area going toward 290, is what I call the upper. So there's a lot more upper than there is lower. But again, I think we're using Colby as at least a designation to separate upper and lower.
Okay.
If the committee was to choose to vote for the 25-mile-an-hour recommendation to the select board, I would ask that it be based on the horizontal curve south of Colby, the north limit of the horizontal curve south of Colby. I can get you a better geographic location once I play with my GIS.
South of Colby. So south of that, the infamous telephone pole.
The telephone pole is just north of Colby.
Yeah, on the right hand side, driving out of town.
Yep, it's screaming at you to say hit me.
No, yeah, I have it in my notes from when we talked about it last time.
Yep. Yeah. I would say to 122 Church Street or 119 Church Street. That's after the horizontal curve.
Yeah.
That's probably the appropriate address if you were to choose to make a motion to reduce the speed limit.
You said 122?
122 Church, yep.
We want Scott to look at that first before we actually write the letter to the board.
Nope, I just looked at it.
Oh.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think we need any more data than what we already have to make this decision. We have the accident data on that pole. We have, just the fact in and of itself that you're coming into a residential area, right, from the wetlands, to me, in my mind, would justify reducing the speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'm concerned that we're going to get all this data that says people aren't speeding and, they're going whatever, they're going 25 miles an hour already. Like, I sort of feel like we should just go ahead and do it based on all the accidents with the pole.
And the 700 year to date in October vehicle stops.
Well, but keep in mind that that's the entirety of Church Street.
Correct, correct.
Right. So,
Yeah,
we
no.
don't, I don't think Sergeant McDonald, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you broke out that data between one side of Colby or the other.
No, that's just running a check of incident type traffic stop, Church Street, from
Right.
January 1st to this morning.
Right.
So, I mean, the vast majority, honestly, are the other end at Fisher, Fay Lane, up where
Yep.
people are flying to get out of town or come into town, come off the highway,
Yeah,
they go
you-
flying by Fisher Street.
Well,
Yeah, you
Fairlane
come
isn't
off the
that far.
highway, you're doing 60 miles an hour and you want to continue doing
Right.
60.
Because,
right?
yeah, it's a 45 for a short while, and then it's 35 for the vast majority of the stretch. And then it drops down to a 30 just before the center.
So let me ask you this. I know the chief mentioned in his previous comments about enforcement, right? What would that be easily enforceable for your department to be able to do it from Colby coming in?
I mean, yeah, they'll run. I mean, we have moving radar. If you're driving out, someone's coming at you. He looks like he's going fast. You can see how fast he's going. They can run radar there. It's no different whether it's a 30 or whether it's 25. Just whether you might catch more people if it's 5 miles an hour or less,
Right.
because then they're speeding that much more.
My driveway is always open.
So
Okay. So let's do this. Do I have a motion to make a recommendation to the select board to change the speed limit of Church Street, starting at 122 Church Street, going to Main Street from 35 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour
In both directions.
in both directions?
Thank you.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second,
Okay. Motion made by Brian, seconded by Rachel. Roll call vote. Rachel,
I,
Kate,
I'm gonna vote no. I don't think I have enough information yet.
okay. Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So we'll make that recommendation in January as well. Sergeant McDonald, if you can, still, maybe find some time to be able to put up those signs and get some data.
yeah, I'll try to hang one tomorrow. I'm in tomorrow 8 to 4, so I'll try to put one up. Like I said, it's still early enough in the winter that I won't put them away for good. So I'll get one up for at least a week or two to see what we can get. Do you want it further into the 30 zone to see if people are speeding, or do you want it right where it transitions? I guess is my question.
I'd put it right at the pole, right at the brand new
So
pole.
northbound going out of town, right
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
pole.
Put it high enough so it's above the bumper elevation, so we don't have to buy another one.
Yeah, and see how fast people are leaving the center, going out of
Yeah,
town at
that's-
that pole.
That's primarily the problem, I think.
All right, I'll try to get that done tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Wall. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Okay, with that, if there's, let's see, I think we have meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes from, what was it, October 14th?
Yes.
Any amendments? If not, do I have a motion to accept the October 14th meeting minutes?
so moved.
The second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Rachel, seconded by Brian. Roll call vote. Kate,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Rachel,
I,
and I'm an aye. I don't have the agenda up in front of me. There's nothing else on there, correct, Scott?
Just the next meeting schedule.
next
and
meeting?
if there's any
I-
other business.
Can you
Aye.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good, because my screen is gray and it's not responding.
Your face is frozen, but we can still see it.
Thank you. And I'm sorry about my frozen face. I have a lot of emotion on it right now. So under any other business, we have had some inquiries from the residents about parking of tractors, not tractor trailers, but the tractor portion of it on Bartlett Street over by Amazon. That was discussed years ago, started just post-COVID. We put up the select board adopted a no parking zone in that area. And we put up numerous signs, even 12-foot long pole signs that the trucks just drive over, throw them in the woods or turn into scrap. So there's been discussions about mitigation efforts to reduce the roadside parking that is illegal along Bartlett Street. A couple of the thoughts brought out. One was to put butt logs out. So the roadway classification and the speed, according to AASHTO's design guidelines, requires a 4-foot shoulder. So we could put logs out on the roadway, on the shoulder, 4 feet beyond the pavement edge, which would extend, another 6-8 feet, depending on how long they're cut. And we could put them in a fashion that is relatively safe for traffic, meaning they're not perpendicular to the roadway or parallel. They're at an angle, directing toward the flow of traffic. So if someone was to go off the shoulder and they impacted the log, it would not be a butt impact. It would be a deflecting impact. We have plenty of butt logs. We pay for them to get disposed of every year, twice a year. I'm happy to not spend taxpayer money on getting rid of them and put them on the roadside. But they're unsightly, obviously. They're big butt logs. But the no parking signs obviously have not been adequate.
What about using the logs and putting up the no parking signs?
I already ordered 4 new no parking signs. 2 are due to damage, and then 2 new ones. So we're going to put those back up. We'll put them up with the long posts. Standard post is 10 feet tall. These are 12s, so the tractor trailer driver can actually see them. And we're happy to put out the logs. We have the logs. We've been, we're emptying the leaf and brush area this week. And I told our contractor, don't take the logs because we may need them. Again, they're unsightly, but it's an industrial zone, and we can put them out there in a safe fashion that complies with design requirements for roadside barriers. So it's a matter of what we want to do.
Rachel?
So I have thoughts on this. And yes, during Prime Day, I drive, as you know, by Bartlett Street several times a day, and they were lined up like it was a rest stop for trucks. So it was not good. My concern is that those trucks are going to go into residential neighborhoods like Stirrup Brook, Hemlock, those types of neighborhoods, because they actually can park there. I know we've had this, it's been a while, but we've had these conversations before. So that's my concern. I don't like the trucks parked on Bartlett. But my concern is, where are they going to go? And Amazon, even though they have these huge parking lots, does not allow their trucks on there. So that's my only concern, other than the unsightliness of the logs on Bartlett.
Yeah. I think Scott got disconnected. But go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of feedback on this just based on people knowing I'm on the select board. This is planning to be on the agenda for December 15th, the select board. Couple of thoughts. One is, we have had discussions with Amazon, and their position is, go ticket the trucks. We ask them not to do it, go do it. And I think the nature of that is they're independent drivers. They tend to not want the problem to be here in Northborough. and they tend to say enforcement, and that's not fair to try to think that we're going to use enforcement from all the time to be able to do that. And it's a lot. I mean, there's a dozen at a time now, so it went away for a while. I don't know about Rachel's concern on Hemlock and Stirrup Brook about those. I mean, I think we would get really quick feedback and really strong urgency about getting those off of Stirrup Brook and Hemlock. I was gone for a couple years. I don't know if trucks were in fact parking there to rest or to wait, or if it was the turnaround disasters we saw initially when Amazon came and trucks didn't know where to go and they thought they could take a right and turn around, and all of a sudden they've got a tractor trailer truck in a residential neighborhood, and that's gone away. The other thing we've talked about is increasing the enforcement, $300 fine. And I mean, if there's a dozen trucks there, that's $3,600. I mean, it's not, I mean, these are real things, right? To try to determine on how we can navigate this as a town. I think everyone just hopes that it kind of goes away. The signs are gone now. I don't think I truly appreciate that till I drove by and took a closer look. So there aren't any signs. So doing something to get them off Bartlett, I think, is the right thing to do. I am cautious after Rachel's comments on unintended consequences to make sure we're not doing something that's just going to make a truck driver maybe take a more drastic approach to like staying in that area. But those are just some of the things being discussed. And December 15th, we're going to have a more organized conversation on it as select board.
Okay. Yeah. And to Rachel's point, I do remember a couple of years ago, we actually had somebody come in front of us with the fact that a truck had literally parked in her front yard, and they had called the police, and the police actually had to come out and talk to the driver. And I believe that was Hemlock, wasn't it, Rachel?
It was
Was
it was Stirrup Brook, and the
Okay.
problem is there's no, they can stay on Stirrup Brook, so they can not idle. That's a law. But if a truck driver wants to take a nap on Stirrup Brook, there's no law that says they can't.
Right. There's no parking signs.
Yeah, and I had seen them for a while in the former Hannaford parking lot.
Yeah.
There really is no place for them to go, which is why I've stopped being such a Karen about Bartlett Street, because I'm scared about where they're going to go if we start enforcing it. But there is no parking there, and they're completely ignoring it, and it's bad.
I would like stronger engagement with Amazon on the solutions too. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been up on that site. Maybe I'll drive up and see if I'm not chastised for doing that. But it would, I mean, I don't know if they have enough room to accommodate some of their drivers, or if it's, I don't know the setup. I don't know what the aerial view looks like that.
We actually had this conversation before, and the problem is that Amazon doesn't own the facility, so they don't own the parking lot, and they're not allowed to actually park their vehicles there. That's from the owner of the property itself.
That's from Blackstone. So the lease they have doesn't permit them to park trucks on. I mean, I would love to explore. They should have the ability to renegotiate or negotiate points on their lease and come to a determine. That assessment did go down 15% year over year, so they're paying a lot less taxes in 26 than they will in 25. But I would think that there's an opportunity to kind of have them engage Blackstone on it.
For a quick update, sorry, it turns out it had nothing to do with my Wi-Fi. It was my VPN software that needed to update, and it did when I completely froze. So the police chief and the town administrator is meeting with Amazon tomorrow to talk specifically about this issue. Our chair gave you a bit of a briefing on what the conditions are on the property. I'll let you know that the tractor trailer drivers, the drivers and their tractors, none of those are Amazon.
They're all independent contractors.
Yep, they're all independent contractors. Amazon has no control over them. The GPS is in the trailer and not in the tractor.
They do have, and we're going to discuss this in detail on the options. there is legal liability for them to comply. Amazon is one of the parties that has legal liability if they prove to be inherently non-compliant with the town. That relationship, the subcontractor relationship, becomes not third arm based on the relationship of how Amazon operates the company. So I think there's real conversation around Amazon's if we were to choose to. And I don't think Amazon wants to be in the press. I don't think the goal is to have communities get frustrated with them being a good neighbor. I think Amazon's motivations are to say, how do we make this not be an issue for Northborough?
They've been very engaging since this started in I think it was 21. And Jonathan, it would be worthwhile to take a look, and I can have Lori send it to you. The planning board decision on the Amazon facility, and I believe it has a right turn condition when
Yep.
exiting the facility and a
Yep.
northerly entrance as
We
well.
worked through a lot. I mean, listen, I contributed $1,000 to save Bartlett as a resident before the select board. Like we were ready to go and Amazon was a, did they $80,000 for a light, not the right design, but they put a light that doesn't stop blinking now, which is better than no 20-mile-an-hour speed limit light. I don't think Amazon wants the press. I don't think we'll be a bad neighbor, and I don't have anything against Amazon as a company. Just want them to be a good neighbor and continue to do things like the right-hand turn, and make it so if there are things that take away from the betterment of the community, they come and they work to help us do it, not make it Northborough's problem. I think they're going to be open to those conversations, but everything's on the table when we talk as a select board.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that it's more about parking and less about errant trucks and directional traffic. I mean, 2 years ago, we were talking about tractor trailers turning around and getting stuck in people's front lawns. So I'm happy to hear that it's down to parking, which I hope that we can address with physical measures, Amazon measures, and enforcement.
It all seems like it's addressable with motivated parties looking for a solution and working together. So I'm not surprised Amazon fixed the parking problem. I don't think they want the TV stations Amazon is not looking for this sort of press, and they shouldn't. Like, they're looking to do the things that we all enjoy when we get a package from Amazon.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to install the logs, the butt logs, if the Traffic Safety Committee thinks it's warranted in the area. There's really no jurisdictional body over it, and I don't know if this committee would feel that it's under the traffic safety mission statement or purview.
Yeah, Scott, I think one of the things you might have missed when you were restarting was Rachel had actually commented that, what's the unintended consequence of doing that, right? Are they going to come back down onto Stirrup Brook and start parking on Stirrup Brook again, right? And I think that's a concern because that brings it much closer to home to a lot of these people.
And a clarifying question, Rachel, is that an N of 1 or was that a continual thing that happened for?
No, it was not a continual thing. But my concern is, and I know you've experienced too, driving by there and seeing the volume of trucks on Bartlett. Where are they going to go? And I feel like before we start putting up logs and physical barriers, we need to have that figured out.
Mhm.
Whether it's Amazon's parking lot, which would be great if we can negotiate with the owner. That seems to be the best solution. But the last time they were sending them to Flynn's in Shrewsbury, which if they're talking about efficiency and independent contractors, they're not going to want to go a half hour out of their way to Flynn's truck stop. I mean, that's just not a viable option in my opinion.
No, I'm with you. But what they're doing right now is not legal.
No, it's not legal, and it's horrible. I would just like to have, a solution or some, sort of resolve about where they're going to go before we start.
So where I've seen the the tractors park, when we put the signs out, and this was a active topic in public conversation, was they went to the Stones yard, where the sausage guy and the barbecue guy.
And
was
all
they
the
went,
businesses on Cedar Hill now have signs that say no
Yep.
truck. The warehouse across the road put up a physical gate. So, everyone's feeling in that area is feeling the impact. And I feel terrible. These truck drivers need to rest. I don't want them on the road not resting. I see them, lined up along 495. Anyway, I can go on for
Yep.
days about this, but that's what, so that's my concern.
so they parked there, they parked down at Watson Park. We shooed them out of there. We're lucky enough to have one of our water sewer technicians who walks down there with his dog in the early evening, and he shoos the park tractor trailer drivers away because it's a dawn to dusk facility. And they parked at 170 Bartlett Street, which is next door to the Devereaux property, between the Devereaux property and Lyman Street. And that they just find, like Rachel said, they find vacant lots and they go there and nap. It's going to end up somewhere. I just hope it ends up at Westboro's pickleball parking lot, maybe.
Yeah, so like I mean, my recommendation is like continue the conversation select board December 15th before we start doing things, and just let's like it's gonna be agenda item, and we can start to and there's a meeting tomorrow at Amazon. There's been meetings in the interim, and see if there's more information for us to be able to think of.
The other thing that they had done, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, they had a flagger at the end of the driveway.
Yep.
Do you remember that, Bill? Because when trucks were entering from the wrong direction, they were redirecting them. But, again, they're still going to need some place to go, even if someone's telling them they can't park there.
I don't remember seeing any. So
There was one there the other day.
A flagger?
Flagger?
Yeah, he was in full neon, and
I think they're flagging
recommended.
now through the holidays pretty aggressively because the volume of trucks was something I was copied on. So I think the flagging activity. But the other thing is I don't remember the trucks being an issue until the last couple of months. Like I remember the past couple of years since I've been back, I haven't noticed or got complaints on trucks. It's the past couple of months, and it's consistent now. It's not going away. And I don't know why that is.
I see that we lost Brian. Not sure. I was hoping he was going to log back on. Not sure why he dropped. Like Rachel said, my concern is the unintended consequences, right? We know that they're going to park somewhere. They're going to park somewhere nearby. They're probably not going to go to the school. That's a little too obvious. If we put up those logs, that's a semi-permanent solution, at least for the winter time. Those aren't going anywhere. So once we do that, once that happens, that's done. And my concern is then what? Do we want to?
I mean, I agree that the chief is meeting with them tomorrow, and then there's a meeting in 6 days. So, like, is there really anything that we need to decide on or vote on or discuss further tonight? I know it's a concern. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but I just feel like this is premature.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, maybe we wait for the holidays to be over. That's probably going to be the worst, unfortunately, that's probably going to be the worst of it, to be honest. That's going to have the most trucks in the area. Scott, I understand your concern because God forbid you order these signs, you do all this work to put them back up, and they just rip them right back down. Right.
They're $300 outside of labor. I mean, just the materials are $300, and we've put probably, I'm going to say 8 or 10 replacements thus far. We just keep on putting them back up when they get knocked down, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah. And that can be frustrating.
Yeah. Guys love it.
Yeah,
I just did this 2 months ago.
I know. But I think Kate's right. I think, we need to give, the town administrator, the police chief, some time to talk to them. The select board to, hopefully come up with some additional options. But I would also caution the select board that this isn't the first time this has happened, right? We've seen this before. We'll see it again. And what I'm concerned about most is I'm concerned about the residents, especially the longtime residents who have lived through this, like Rachel, right? That have seen this happen over and over and over again, that they continue to see the same cycle happening again. We should learn our lessons from the past, and that, and I hate to say this, but they'll do great for a year or two, and then we'll be right back to where we are again.
The thing is, our trucking partners or residents, Adui, Pile, and FedEx, they own the tractors, they employ the drivers. Adui, Pile being a small business, you can have a relationship and a conversation, and it's productive, positive, and long-standing. Amazon has a lot of turnover. They have no control over their drivers. It's a completely different playing field that we're on right now, and it's unknown. So as much as the select board worked diligently in 2021 to go through this, and Rachel, you were involved, as well as Kristen then, here we are again, and I wish there was a permanent solution, but I fear 2 to 3 years, when the turnover happens at Amazon, we'll be here chit-chatting about something different.
Hey, Scotty, you're attributing the current situation to turnover at Amazon on Bartlett Street, to an employee leaving?
There's been a lot of turnover there. There often is. Their dialogue remains consistent, but the follow through lacks. There used to be a handout that they would give at the gate when the driver came through to deliver. They had a little flyer that said, "Leave to the right." Don't take a left. Don't only take a left to enter. I don't believe they're still doing that. There's been turnover. Maybe that program isn't happening anymore. When you have these, for lack of better terms, gypsy drivers, there's no consistency in who is delivering and taking trailers with them. So it's a non-stop learning process for their subcontractor drivers.
I'm confident with the right dialogue, we can get to the right outcome. This isn't the only community that has dealing with having a sorting center in its backyard, and that there's solutions here, and Amazon has a lot of legal obligations. So I do feel that there is the opportunity to do it. I'm not, I can throw a baseball to Rachel's house from where I live. So all of Rachel's concerns are my concerns. So there's no sort of not in my backyard. I think we can figure it out, and not have to acquiesce to having a dozen trucks on Bartlett.
I don't disagree. It's just going to be a consistent communication. Keeping that line of communication open is critical, because when bodies change, stories change, and maintaining contact is important, I think.
I will say, and John, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the planning board conditions in terms of the truck drivers driving, is it west or east, or they're not driving by the high school anymore. They're entering and exiting in the appropriate direction. So that I feel like we've been able to figure out. You rarely see an Amazon truck coming across, down the residential section of Bartlett.
Yeah,
so,
I'm with you. Yeah. I think Amazon wants to be a good neighbor. So, I mean, silent frustration will just build forever, or you can go and work and communicate. And I think Amazon has every intention to be a good neighbor.
And we it took a while to get the truck exclusion, and it takes a while for the GPS software, engineers to incorporate that information. And we did share it with Amazon, so they have their own internal GPS software. So it's been integrated everywhere. And I think that's been incredibly helpful, keeping the trucks off that side of the Bartlett Street.
Yeah, yeah, that's been huge.
Agreed.
Okay. So we'll keep an eye on it for now.
Yeah, and we can
Thank you.
revisit next agenda item with an update or, yeah, I appreciate the dialogue.
That would
Yeah,
be
thank
great.
you.
Any other items to bring up? If not, our next meeting is January 13th. We're gonna still stick with the 6:30. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Works for me.
Okay. If there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Rachel,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
and I'm an I. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Happy
Thanks.
holidays.
Thanks.
Happy
Same to you.
holidays.
Yes, happy holidays. Bye-bye.